Hey guys, I am back again today with another video of a simple system that I use to keep my important homeschool papers organized. So this is my master homeschool binder system. Some of you may have heard me talk about it before, but in this video I'm going to show you step by step how I have it set up and how you can set up your own in 5 minutes or less and feel like you are organized and can find any of those kind of awkward papers that you might not need a whole lot, like immunization records or exemption forms for your state. You're going to be able to file these away in your master homeschool binder, and you're always going to know where they're at, and you're going to feel super organized with this simple system. All right, you guys, so this is just a super simple system that I set up several years ago to keep my papers organized. Now, this is my master homeschool binder. This is not something that I get into every day. This is more or less a simplified, condensed file cabinet or filing system that I have set up to keep those papers organized that you don't need to access very often, but when you need them, it's super important that you find them quickly. Just an example, I have a son that is working his very first job this summer, and we were not aware of it, but we realized on the day that he was going in for his orientation to do kind of his last step of the hiring process, they needed to see his school records and immunization records, and we needed to find them really quickly, and I was so glad that I had this on hand. So let me quickly show you how I set this thing up. So this was set up several years ago, and you can see I have just these nice thick tabs along the side with printed labels that you can find at Target, and it's really simple to print those out if you don't like your handwriting. I was feeling very overzealous that day, and I printed them out, and it was super slick and super quick. So the first thing that I have in my planner or in my master binder is these year plans. Now these are super simple wrap-up sheets that I will show you how to do in another video, but it's super simple. It's just a school year at the top of the page, and you can do it however you want to, but it's just like a very quick synopsis of what you've covered that school year. Books you've read, things you covered in history, science, field trips you went on, activities that your kids did, any notes that you want to note. You can see that I've changed it a little bit throughout the year, but not much. I mean, things just got a little bit more as my kids got older and things like that. So our field trip list got more extensive. Sometimes I've made notes to myself. This was a hectic homeschool year. We made a big move from North Carolina to South Dakota to Minnesota. So I note things like that to myself just so I can remember what we did. Here is an example of a longer page wrap-up that I did because this was just a really big year that we did a lot of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that we put all that stuff in there. On this list, I actually listed books that we read together and then books that my kids read individually. So that was a good way to keep track of that if you want to do that. So then the next section in my binder is book lists, and we always find awesome book lists online. This is Living Books Curriculum. A lot of people use Ambleside. Those are all awesome book lists. So sometimes I will just print those out and stick those in here because I want to refer back to them later. So that is where I keep those book lists. The next really important section that I have in here is exemption and testing forms. So usually every state that we've lived in, we are required to fill out an exemption form at the beginning of the year. Your state might be different, but it's important to know those laws. So in here I have a different page protector for each state that we've lived in: South Dakota, North Carolina, and now Minnesota. And so every year when I fill out the exemption form, I just slide it in here just to remind myself that I have done my state duty for the year thus far. So I've got that filled out. The next thing that I have on here is I have a page protector for each of my kids. And that is for their state testing. Every year we do a state test, or a standardized test, excuse me, and then when their results come in, I print them out and I put them in here. So obviously my oldest has, you know, a lot of state tests, and my younger kids don't have quite as many. But those are filling up as well. So that's that. And then the last thing that I have in here is that my kids' immunization records, and those are just right behind their test results. And so again, if I need to find those really quickly, I have one for each of my 4 kids, and I can just grab those really quickly. The next section in my binder is Homeschool Helps. So if I go to a workshop, or if I, you know, find an awesome article online or something like that, I will print that out and I will put that in here for safekeeping. So if I want to come back later and read it, I can do that, and I know exactly where it is. So I've got you know, just a ton of awesome, you know, notes from webinars and all kinds of different great things that I've seen. This is an article that I, you know, actually copied out of a magazine and put it in here to keep referring back to. So it's really good, and I like to have that in here just for encouragement, you know, in lieu of going to a conference sometimes. That's just a good alternative. The next section that I have in here is for classes and activities. So if your kids are part of a co-op, if you need to put that class information in here, that is a good place to put it, so you can refer back to it for both record keeping and to remind yourself, like, what's going on next semester? I need to see that, and you can really quickly refer back to it here. The next section I have in here is curriculum info. I have lists of the different curriculum that we have used throughout our different years of homeschooling. And you can see on here, sometimes things didn't work out and I crossed those out or whatever. These are just my lists to myself, and just different. Sometimes if I want to hang on to a catalog, I will slip the catalog in here. That gets a little bit bulky, but I will kind of clean it out as we go along. And if I, you know, decide I don't want that anymore, then I'll take it out of there. So that's curriculum info. And then the last section here is just a book wish list. So I have printed out my Amazon book wish list, and I kind of cross things out as I get them, and then I can kind of use that if I'm making a purchase or looking on thrift books for different books that I want, or just kind of refer back to it sometimes just to see if I even still want that book. So that is it, and you should be able to set this up in about 5 minutes if you have all of your stuff gathered. And I actually have a free guide for you to, you know, walk you through even more in depth and set up your own master homeschool binder, and you can find that on Learning Well Community. All right, thanks for watching.